In this week's Ask Reddit, what are you still salty about from your childhood? Moved to Hawaii and was abused by kids and school staff. Made to pay haole, white man tax. The bus driver would say, "Pay up, whitey," sometimes not letting me on, always screaming and yelling at me. I thought it was normal, and I deserved it, not realizing the other kids got let on for free. They would flip me off from the window as they drove off. I was called soulless, little white devil, threatened daily. At recess, I would sit by the same fence and weave palm leaves in a shade around me to hide me from everyone, for 2 years. It took me 10 years later to realize I was worthy of love. There was nothing wrong with me. I still struggle with not being a chameleon in social situations, not keeping track of exits, anxiety, social interactions in general. I also got molested, but that was nothing compared to the daily fear and loneliness of Hawaii. Be careful. Your emotional conviction does not excuse evil. All those people thought that they were defending their island, but all they really did was abuse a child. My mom would arbitrarily accuse me of lying about banal things that would seemingly come out of nowhere. She would accuse me of lying about something, I would deny it, and she would slap herself in the face and tell me that every time I lied, she would continue to slap herself, and I was causing this by lying. I remember being furious at her and being unable to express myself as she's yelling at me and slapping her face. It was really messed up. I absolutely do not talk to her anymore, and though this period of time happened about 30 years ago, I find myself livid thinking about it. She is the most terrible person I have ever known, and it's not even close. I had mental health issues as a child in face of negativity and teasing from adults. I remember we were lined up for the playground in first grade, and some kids were trying to see who could hold their breath the longest. Another kid asked, "Can you die from holding your breath too long?" And I blurted out, remember, I was 6. I didn't have any concept of social taboos or sensitive topics. "I know I can't. I tried it lots of times because I was sad." I heard the supervisors laughing and repeating what I said to each other and saying things like, "That child is scary," and "It sounds like dialogue from a horror movie." I still remember how that felt to hear, even 16 years later. I had a stuffed dog my grandparents gave me when I was born. I loved the fur off that dog during my childhood. His tail and ear were stitched, his nose glued back on, his bell missing. I remember tying him to my wrist at night because I didn't want to lose him if the house caught on fire. When I was 18, my family moved, and my dad threw all my stuffed animals away, including Puppy. When I asked why, my dad said it was grungy. I'm 50 and still get pissed at my dad about Puppy. That time my little sister hit my head with a hammer as a joke, so I hit her back in the arm. My parents were really upset with me. They rushed her to the hospital and she had to wear a cast for a month. They didn't even check my head for blood or made her apologize to me. A few years after that, I started getting headaches, so I went to the hospital on my own and found out I had a crack on my skull. Because of that, I now forget things easily and have constant headaches. And she still hasn't apologized to me. Like, come on, is it that hard? Jeez. I was a competitive gymnast. I've also been a very colorful person my whole life, and I love rainbow anything. One year, we had a meet, and the theme was Groovy Green Mountain Invitational. As all-around prizes, they were giving out rainbow lava lamps, and boy howdy did I want one. The hitch was, they only had so many. They were only giving them out to first to third place in the all-around. I competed my little heart out, but alas, it wasn't enough, and I placed 4th. At the end of the whole meet, after all age groups had finished, I remember leaving the building with my mom. We had to pass the merchandise area, and what do you know? They're just giving away those rainbow lava lamps. I didn't make it to the table fast enough, and they handed the last one out before I could get there. To this day, I'm still salty they handed out extras instead of giving them to the next place down that would have won one. That was 22 years ago. I still don't have my rainbow lava lamp. My 7th grade math teacher confiscated my Pokemon cards and told me I could have them back later in the week, a Thursday to be precise. She puts them in her filing cabinet. Thursday comes, and when she goes to get them, they aren't there. She says she's sorry, but there's nothing she could do. She tells my mom the same. I was an avid collector. Had a holographic Charizard, Mew and Mewtwo, Ash's Pikachu, Ditto, Clefairy, etc. Many of the rare ones that went for big bucks later down the line. My middle school teacher was a 5'5" black woman with micro braids, wore glasses, and was in her mid-20s in the 1990 to 2000, making her somewhere in her late 40s to mid-50s now. I remember who you are, Miss Harris, and you owe me a house. My parents divorced when I was a baby, and my dad was never really involved in my life. My mom remarried when I was 9, and my stepdad was a prick. They had a different daughter when I was 11. My childhood was completely and utterly different from hers. I was told pretty early that if I wanted a car or to go to college, I'd be paying for it myself. I started working at 14 to make this happen. I bought my own car and put myself through state school. I wasn't allowed to be on their insurance policy either. I had to go out and get my own. My sister, on the other hand, never worked, was given a car, had all her bills paid for, was allowed to visit out-of-state schools, picked one that cost $40,000 a year, and they paid for that too. My mother always tried to justify it by saying I wasn't his kid, but she was a 50-50 earner in the house alongside him, and I was certainly her kid. I'm 46, and I'm still salty about how I had to scratch and claw my way to adulthood while my half-sister was served life on a silver platter. Back when my family ran a store and I had to tag along, my mom asked me to help walk an old woman, one of the customers who apparently needed some help to get somewhere, to another store. I, 9 to 10 at the time, kept refusing, but she persisted and kept telling me to go help her. I was forced to follow this woman everywhere she went while she held on to me for stability. She kept dragging me everywhere she went, while all I wanted to do was just go back to the store and do what I was doing. Eventually, my sister found me and just took me back to the store, where my family scolded me for walking with strangers, telling me that I could have been kidnapped, even though they forced me to follow the stranger in the first place. Too long didn't read. I was forced to do something I didn't want to do and got punished for doing said thing they forced me to do. So basically what my ex-wife's mom did to her. When we met, she had moved back in with her mom after breaking up with her previous boyfriend. She was paying her rent, and it somehow came up that her and her older brother, who also lived there, were each paying half of the rent for the house. Their mom was supposed to pay for the utilities and car insurance, but when that came around, my ex and her bro had to pay that too. So basically, her mom and her 17-year-old pregnant sister were living for free on the dime of the two of them. She moved out with her best friend not too long after, and one evening we were watching a movie, and she said it was nice to finally be able to pay for a place of her own again and getting to keep all of her money. I asked her what she meant, and she told me that her mom had taken all of her paychecks and her income tax returns from the time she started working at 15 until she moved out with her last boyfriend when she was 20. Her mom would give her money here and there, but the bulk she kept to help pay the bills. She didn't think anything of it, and I asked if they were that poor or something. She said no, that her mom was always going to bingo, playing the lottery, getting her nails and hair done, cigarettes, and so on. But when it came to actual adult bills, she never ever paid them and would extort money from my ex or her brother. My parents never took a dime from me growing up, and once she spent time around my family, she realized how effed up her family was and how my family was more of a family than her. That's it for today. Do y'all have any salty memories you all want to share? Comment down below. Thanks for listening. See you on the next page.